And we should be live. Welcome to this second Harry Potter TCG stream on the channel. If you are not familiar, this is basically me playing the Harry Potter TCG in my house format. You could say we're playing with a classic format, which is the original 5 sets of the game, but with some house rules. If you want to know the details of the house rules, you can check a link in the description that takes you to a video where I explain the thought process behind those changes. But to sum it up, the card Caught by Snape is banned in my format, and the unique rule only applies to you. Today, I will first present 2 decks that are basically 2 new decks that I haven't showed before on the channel. And then we'll see those decks in action. I will also be talking about some changes and lessons that I got between now and the last stream. So I will show some changes that I made to the Ron's Help deck that is up on the channel. If you want to see previous decks that have been posted on the channel, you can find them in a playlist in the description. And without further ado, I would like to jump into looking at the 2 decks that I will be presenting today that are new. And I also want to say that if you have any questions, you can ask them in the comments. It might be hard to follow along if you haven't seen the other content, but I'll still, I'll answer any questions if things are unclear. And if you would like to see a particular matchup today between 2 decks that you think would be fun, then we will try to accommodate that if we can fit it in the schedule. All right, so let me just get the comments page up. And let's get to the first deck of today. Here we go. So this one I call Hooch Tempo Stun. It's basically a really greedy version of the McGonagall deck that I've showed on the channel so far. So the McGonagall deck was aiming to discard your opponent's lessons to slow them down. This deck is also doing that, but it's doing it in a different way. Let's have a look first at the starting character, Madam Rolanda Hooch. So first of all, she provides us 1 Quidditch power. And this means, of course, both that we have a head start in terms of power. And as I mentioned in the McGonagall video, this is really nice because it lets us play Picking on Neville and Dobby's disappearance as early as turn 2. But the other cool thing with having a starting character that provides you a type of power is that means that you can play 3 different kinds of power. So in this deck, we are playing Transfiguration lessons and Care of Magical Creatures lessons. And normally if you would play, let's say, 3 different kinds of lessons, there would be a big risk that you don't draw one particular type of lesson, and therefore you cannot play a certain section of your deck. But because we're playing Madam Rolanda Hooch, we only have to draw 1 Transfiguration and 1 Care of Magical Creatures to be able to play all of the cards in our deck, rather than having to draw 3 different types, because Madam Rolanda Hooch already provides us the Quidditch power that we need. So that is really nice. And the second thing she does is once per game, she lets us take a Broom card from our deck, show it to our opponent, and put it into our hand. So the Broom we have chosen for this deck is Shooting Star. And this Broom, it requires 4 power to play, and it says that we can use an action and discard a card from our hand to draw 2 cards. And it also provides 1 Quidditch power. You're only allowed to have 1 Broom in play, but we're only playing 1 Broom, so that's totally fine. We don't care. And the beautiful thing about this card is, okay, first of all, it provides power. So it's like we're getting an extra card for free, a free extra lesson using our starting character. But second of all, the fact that we can discard a card from a hand to draw 2 cards is a really, really useful ability. Normally, when you're playing the Harry Potter TCG, you play a certain amount of lesson cards, but once you get to a certain amount of power, you no longer need the lesson cards. So anytime you draw a lesson card, it's a useless card. What this card does, Shooting Star, it allows us to discard those lesson cards to draw 2 cards. Which, I mean, it would be better to just draw a useful card to begin with, but being able to discard a card to draw 2 cards means that that card is at least not useless. Normally you would use an action to draw 1 card, but because of Shooting Star, if we have a card in our hand that we don't want to use, we can draw 2 cards for an action, which is really nice. It means we see more of our deck faster. And this also explains why we're not trying to play cards that cost more than 5 power in this deck. So the Shooting Star provides the 5th power because we need 4 to play it. And any excess lessons, instead of aiming to play them to get to a higher power count, we're just discarding them so that we can see more of the spells that we're actually using to win the game and the creature cards that we're using to win the game. So in terms of the spells and the stuff that we're using to disrupt our opponent, we have Picking on Neville that you've seen from the McGonagall video. So this one, if you remember, you can target one of your opponent's cards, and then they either have to discard that one or discard 2 other cards in play. So this one is really powerful just because you can play it so early. As I mentioned in the McGonagall video, you can even sometimes trash Ginny Weasley with this card. Let me pull her up. Yeah, you can see like this is the common draw engine that character decks play. But against most decks, you can just play Picking on Neville on a lesson card, and it will set them back in action, and also they have to dig for more lessons by drawing cards. Another no-brainer is Dobby's Disappearance, also requires 4 power. We can return one of our opponent's cards to their hand, and we get 1 more action. I call this the most powerful spell in the game. I still think that's true. We basically just losing a card, but our opponent is losing an action. It's a great card. Then we have, you may notice a theme that we are so far playing stuff that makes our opponent lose time in different ways. We're destroying their lessons. We're setting them back in action. A card that fits with that is Fouled. You've seen it in the Angelina deck if you've been watching the channel, but it deals 4 damage to our opponent, and then during the next turn they have 1 fewer action. So this, again, we're setting them back 1 action, and the reason this works so well, not only is it doing the 4 damage, but by slowing the pace of the game down, that gives our creatures more time to deal damage. Then we have a bit of speculative pick in the deck called Slytherin Steals. What this one does is it does 2 damage to our opponent, and then if they have any cards in play, they have to choose one of them and discard it. So the reason this is speculative is because if you're up against a character deck, they may have once per game effects on characters that they have already used, and then they are actually happy to get rid of such a character, because then that means they can play another copy. So you're actually helping a character deck by playing this card sometimes. So if you are very worried about character decks, you may want to play a card that I'm going to show here. This could be a different way to build the deck if your main concern is the character decks, which it might be that you rightfully should be most concerned about the character decks. I've tried to build the decks so far that they are as generally good as possible, and not playing so many tech cards. If you don't know, tech cards are cards that are basically added to combat a particular type of strategy. So Vanishing Referee it only requires 4 power, and it allows us to shuffle a non-healing character in play into its owner's deck. So we could use this on our opponent's Ginny if we're playing against character decks, and also very early on to slow them down. So if we remove the 4 Slytherin Steals and put this in, it would be much stronger against character decks. And maybe it wouldn't be so bad to have more situational cards, because we do have Shooting Star. So if we can't use it in a matchup, maybe at least we can discard it and get 2 cards, which is still pretty okay. But that was all the reasons why Slytherin Steals is bad. Now, let me tell you why it can be good. So if you're up against a so-called normal deck, or as I like to call them, all they have in play early on when you're playing this is lesson cards, which means this card is destroying a lesson, but also dealing 2 damage. So not only is it like a Lost Notes, which allows you to discard one of your opponent's items or lessons, it is also dealing 2 damage at the same time. So it's like Lost Notes, but with a little bit of an upside, where you get that little 2 points of chip damage in as well. The rest of the deck is pretty straightforward. You're just you're disrupting your opponent with all of these spells, and then you're getting creatures into play to deal damage to them. Well, not this one actually. Garden Gnome just makes them discard a card at the end of their turn, if you remember that card from the Fred and George deck that I showed on the channel. So this is just another way to gain value, and you can get it into play very early. And this also goes very well with making them waste time, because the more time they waste, the more cards they have to discard. Just like the more time they waste, the more damage your creatures will deal. And the next creatures just make sense. You have Black Bat, which is the best 4-cost creature, deals 2 damage to your opponent when you play it, and also deals 2 damage each turn. Then we have Prickly Porcupine, maybe the best 5-cost creature, because when you play it, you can draw a card, so it replaces itself card-wise, and it deals 2 damage each turn. The last few creatures we have are basically equivalent. We have Mandrake, 1 copy, which can discard itself to get a non-healing character from your discard pile into your hand. But the thing is, we don't play characters in this deck, so this is just for fun. This is also equivalent to a card called Slytherin Serpent. And Cunning Fox is the same. So all of these basically do the same thing. They require 4 power, deal 3 damage a turn. They have 1 health. So as you can see, they are basically equivalent in this deck. Anyway, the point is just we're playing these because our end goal is to have 5 power, and these are the creatures that deal the most damage at 5 power. We would probably play more Prickly Porcupines if we could, but you can only play 4 of them. So we're playing the next best thing. Yeah, that is basically the entire Hooch deck. So you're starting to disrupt your opponent very early. You're putting creatures into play. You're always trying to delay them. So it's a very fast, aggressive, and I would say kind of a greedy deck. You could compare this to, if we compare it to the McGonagall deck, this deck is more vulnerable to adventure cards because it doesn't have the built-in ability to get rid of an adventure. The reward you get is what I guess would refer to as the greed of Shooting Star, which lets you discard all your dead cards, and also to just stay at 5 power and use your lessons cards as fuel to get to the rest of your deck. Yeah, so that is the Hooch deck. I expect this deck to have the upper hand against the next deck I'm about to show. So let's have a look at that one. The other deck for today is the first prison deck on the channel. If you're not familiar with what a prison deck is, it basically means a deck that is aiming to severely or completely limit your opponent's options and thereby win the game. So you limit their options first, and then you have some kind of way to close the game out once they are in prison. I guess you could argue that the McGonagall deck that destroys your opponent's lessons is sort of a prison deck, but it's not really true prison because they can always get out of it by playing more lesson cards, at least in theory. So that is more of a soft lock, whereas this deck is trying to completely lock your opponent out. Okay, so let's have a look at what does our starting character do. Well, he provides us a Charms power. So same thing here as with the Hooch deck that I just showed. Because our starting character provides a kind of power, we can play two kinds of lessons and be reasonably certain that we will have all the power types that we want. Also, Flitwick allows us to once per game trade 2 cards in our hand for 1 card in our discard pile that needs Charms power, and it will become apparent soon why we want to do that. So this prison deck, I split into 2 phases, you could say. The first phase is trying to lock your opponent, and then the second phase is when they are locked. So the first phase, you're trying to get to 7 power so you can play your prison card. This is the key card of the deck called Deboning. It says that during your opponent's next turn, he or she can't use actions to play cards. So simply, they cannot use actions to play cards. Now, there are ways to get around this. If at least in my interpretation, for example, Fred and George Weasley have an effect that allows you to use an action to put a card into play, so you're not technically playing a card. That would get around this effect. But in general, your opponent will not be able to play anything and therefore be severely limited. So the idea of the deck is to play this card and then keep playing it every single turn by either getting a new copy or returning an old copy to your hand. And while you are doing that, you are developing your own board, putting creatures on the board, and spending time to get rid of any creatures they might have so that you can survive. So the first stage of this deck is playing power to get to Deboning. And of course, we need lessons to do that. So we are playing some Care of Magical Creatures, and we're playing some Transfigurations. We're playing more Care of Magical Creatures and Transfigurations because we actually have cards in the deck that discard our own Care of Magical Creatures. So the thought is that we need a few more of them. And then the other thing that really helps us get to 7 power is this Borrowed 1 card. So this is simply an item that provides 2 power. So this saves us a card and an action if we can get to Deboning with the help of this before they destroy it. Often they are not able to destroy it, and even if they do, we are playing 4 copies, so maybe we can replace it. But anyways, this helps us get to 7 power faster. So the rest of the deck is really all about when they are locked, which means the turn that we are able to play Deboning. How do we keep playing Deboning? So one of the ideas is that we want to be able to have more actions so that we have more time to play cards, because if we play Deboning every turn, that means we are going to we're basically wasting a card and an action every turn just to keep the prison locked. And to help us here, we are playing a location called Gringotts. It says each player gets 1 more action on each of his or her turns. And this is great because your opponent also gets an extra action, but since we are playing Deboning, they're not actually able to use that action for anything other than drawing cards. And so we are basically the only person that can benefit from this card. And also we get an action from this card the turn that we play it. So we can always, if we have this in our hand, we can always play this on the turn that we are aiming to play Deboning. So that's great. We also have a unicorn. This, I'm not sure about the numbers here. Like maybe you could refine this deck a little bit more and realize that you should play more Gringotts in it. I'm not sure. But Unicorn is doing the same thing as Gringotts. It just requires more power to play and requires you to discard 1 Care of Magical Creatures lesson when you play it. So this one is a little trickier to fit into the same turn that you're playing Deboning, because you would need to start your turn with 7 power, I guess. Let's see, if you're at 7, you can play Deboning and this. Well, essentially, you wouldn't need to. Yeah, you would need to start your turn at 7, because you would lose a lesson when you play this. Whereas with Gringotts, you can reach 7 power on your first action, then play Gringotts, and then play Deboning. So this one is a little trickier. You need to be 1 action further ahead, but still, you can have multiple of these in play. So if you combine Gringotts and this, then you can get quite a few actions. And as soon as you reach more than 3 actions, you're probably in a really good spot. Now, we could play more Gringotts. The only downside of that is you can only have 1 of them in play because it's a location, and it happens to be a unique location as well, which is kind of redundant. But so if we draw multiple copies of Gringotts, we can't use all of them. So that's where we are playing fewer. The rest of the stuff in the deck that's not giving us actions, a lot of it is trying to get us to the next Deboning. So it means we have some cards that just draw us cards, like the spell card Outpost, aiming to draw us the next copy of Deboning or other card that helps us get Deboning. Then we have Gringotts Vault Key that can just search our deck for any card, which will typically be Deboning. So you can search your deck for Deboning, then play Deboning. Then we have Reparo, which gets a non-healing card from our discard pile into our hand. So we can take Deboning from our discard pile, and then we can play Deboning. And now we finally circle back to Flitwick's effect. Flitwick is able to return both Reparo and the Vault Key to our hands. So yeah, so essentially he gives us an extra turn of playing Debonings, and this is why he is our starting character of choice. He basically guarantees that we can reuse one of these cards 1 time. So buying us an extra turn is very powerful, and probably we will have 2 cards in our hand that we are okay with getting rid of once we are starting to use this effect. Then we have Scribbly Force. This is basically used to, once they are in the lock state, we need to be able to get rid of any threats they have on the board. So we want to be able to get rid of creatures, for example, because while we are busy playing Deboning, if we're taking damage every turn, then maybe eventually we die. So we need to be able to get rid of the things that they have on the board that might be able to mess with us in some way. And Scribbly Force gets rid of 2 cards. We don't really care which one goes to the discard pile and which one goes to the hand, because they are not going to be playing cards anyway, because we are playing Deboning again, so they are not able to play their cards. And you might ask, why not Dobby's Disappearance? It's a really good card. The logic here is just that we want to be able to remove as many cards as possible per card that we draw, and Scribbly Force gets rid of 2, whereas Dobby's Disappearance gets rid of 1. Yes, we could use Dobby's Disappearance for other purposes, but in this deck we figured that the most important thing is to get to the lock state as quickly as possible, and any card that doesn't help with that should not be in there. Things that we're using to remove cards needs to be as efficient as possible, and therefore we want the card that removes 2 copies rather than just 1. So 2 Scribbly Force in the deck for this reason. This can also be recycled if you need to play more, if you need to get rid of more cards than just 2. Next one is Color Changing Ink. So this is an item that if you have it in play, you can use an action to put your hand on the bottom of your deck and draw as many cards as you had in your hand. So once you have a bunch of useless cards, you can essentially turn them into a powerful draw engine that sort of guarantees that you get to the next Deboning on your turn. So this is just yet again another way to be able to play your Debonings. We have Hannah Abbott that similarly to Flitwick can return cards from our discard pile, but she can trade any 2 cards in our hand for 2 non-healing cards in our discard pile. So we are not playing more than 2 copies because we can only get one of her into play because she's unique, but she's incredibly useful because on her own she lets us play 2 more Deboning, so we are basically buying 2 turns worth of time, which is huge. We are playing 1 Madam Pomfrey in case we are running out of cards in our deck. Maybe we would actually draw the rest of our deck before we're able to kill our opponent. Then we can get Madam Pomfrey out, shuffle some cards back, so that we have the time we need to finish them off. The rest of the cards is just Hedwig, that is like a Reparo in creature form. So she also deals a little bit of damage to our opponent over time, but the main way we're killing them is while they're we're playing Deboning against them. We have our Crazed Capybara that is dealing damage to them every turn. This one is also the minimum sunk cost for playing a creature because we're getting our card back. And since we cap at 7 power, we're choosing a creature that requires 7 power. So the deck, if it ever gets to Deboning, is really powerful. The main problem is that it's kind of a glass cannon. There is a lot of ways to disrupt it, as we will see in the matchups that are coming now against Hooch. You can mess with it by getting rid of the lessons and stuff. But if it ever gets you in the hold, then you are probably screwed. Although I will say it's not at all guaranteed. It's still a bit of a fun solitaire game for the prison player to actually keep the prison going once it's been established. But yeah, that is the entire deck, and without further ado, I'd like to get into the game. So I'm gonna poke my little buddy to play against me, and then we're gonna start by me playing the Deboning deck. Yeah, it wants to know the game name. Yeah, on this site, hosting a game takes a little bit of time. Okay, there it is. So we're gonna be playing the Deboning prison, and this is a tricky matchup. I know that the zoom could be better, but the problem is if I zoom more than this on this site, then the cards start showing up on the left side, and then they are blocked by my camera. So I keep it at this zoom for that reason. Okay, I'm just gonna I'm gonna decide that I'm gonna start for this this first game, and then we'll see where we go from there. All right, this looks like a pretty good hand actually. Yeah, so again, in the early game here, we're only gonna be trying to get to 7 power. So I'll just use my 2 actions to play these 2 lessons, and then I'll pass back to him. And of course, he will be trying to disrupt us in a lot of ways. Now, as the Hooch deck, he's using his power to get a broom from the deck. Yeah. Against some decks that play, for example, Escaping the Dursleys, that force you to discard your hand, you may want to delay getting your broom, but since he knows that we are not playing that, it's safe to get your broom right away. The risk of not using the ability is that you risk drawing the broom from your deck, and then you will no longer be able to use the effect of Hooch. So he got the shooting star, of course, because it's the the only broom in the deck. And now he's playing more stuff. All right. So he's just playing 2 lessons. So next turn, if he has 1 more power, he's gonna be able to start disrupting us. This is nice. We drew our Deboning. So, oh no, it's showing up on the wrong side. Damn it. Okay, I'm not sure what to do about it, but hopefully you guys remember the effect. So we drew the Deboning, and that means we have the cards that we need. We just need the power. We also have Gringotts to start giving us extra actions. So we can play a Transfiguration and the Borrowed Wand, and that means we are now at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 power. If we just get a lesson next turn, we can start playing Deboning, and we already have ways to get Deboning back. So he really needs to start disrupting us. I'm pretty sure that he will. He has so many ways to do it. But if we're lucky, we could be able to start playing Deboning as soon as next turn. Yeah, it looks like the text is still visible, so I guess it's okay with the Deboning. Wait, he's playing a Garden Gnome. He can't do that. I'm gonna alert him. He's missing a Care of Magical Creatures lesson, so he can't play the Garden Gnome. Okay, so yeah, this he can play. So he has, that's kind of unlucky by him. You remember how I was talking about how you're likely to draw all the power you need? Well, I guess he didn't. So he drew only Transfiguration lessons, and that means he's using his last action to play the Broom. If we draw power here, we're all set. We didn't. Dang it. We were so close. If we had been able to start playing Deboning this turn, we would have also been able to play Gringotts without him being able to play cards, and then we are at a point where we can play, we have 3 actions each turn, and we have a lot of ways to get Deboning back. So this is problematic, unfortunately. But let me, yeah. So I guess because I don't, yeah, I need more power, so I'm gonna have to use actions to draw more cards. We drew another Deboning, which is not useful at this time. So we just have to draw another card. Yeah, still not useful, but at least the Outpost, if we still don't have what we need next turn, maybe we can play this to draw 3 cards. The only problem is now he has a window to start discarding our stuff, so maybe we will be below 6 power on our next turn. But let's see. At least we got lucky in the sense that he's not able to play his creature cards. Yeah. So I'm just waiting to see how he's gonna try to mess with us. Okay, so looks like he is drawing very poorly because he's using the Shooting Star. He's discarding a creature card, which makes sense because he's not able to play the creature cards right now. And I guess he's digging for the right card to disrupt me or a Care of Magical Creatures lesson. But yeah, it's a bit... Okay, so he's playing Dobby's Disappearance, returning the Borrowed Wand to our hand. At least it's not being discarded. And he still has 1 action left because he gets it back when playing Dobby's Disappearance. Yeah. Okay, and now he got his Care of Magical Creatures lesson. But surprisingly, he has played a surprisingly low amount of cards that mess with us. And now we get the power that we need. The only problem is we can't get to 7 this turn because playing these 2, that's 2 actions. But we're close. So if I play the wand, That's 6 power. And I think the only sane thing to do is to just keep playing lessons. If he somehow discards the wand, then with this play, at least if we top deck another wand, we are still able to play Deboning next turn. So we're just, yeah, making the play that gives us the highest chance to be able to reach Deboning on the next turn. So he draws for the turn. Looks like he's thinking. Yeah, seems like he got really unlucky this game. But we might be able to capitalize on it now. Because if it shouldn't be that his turn is complex. If he has ways to mess with us, then he will do so. But because he's thinking, oh, okay, I guess that's interesting. So he's trying to target our transfiguration cards. I guess his plan is that if he gets rid of all our transfiguration power, then we cannot play Deboning. And that's completely true. But we don't want to discard 2 other cards in play. That would just be even worse. So we'll get rid of the transfiguration that he targeted. That was just his first action too. I guess that's why he was thinking, because I guess he was choosing between targeting the wand and the transfiguration lessons. And this is a cool play from him, because now he's locked us out of transfigurations by playing this Lost Notes, allowing him to discard a lesson. But we do have Hedwig in our hand that can get transfiguration lesson back if we can just get to 6 power again. So let's see what we get. We just get another owl post. So looks like we're once again having to draw for cards that give power. Oh, we got a transfiguration, so that's what we need. So we just play it, and hopefully he can't discard it again on his next turn. But there's definitely no guarantees here. Also, if he doesn't discard one of our lessons now, we can if we top deck a card that gives power, we can play Deboning on the next turn. Okay, so he's not disrupting us. He's playing 2 Cunning Fox. So this puts on a lot of pressure. He's going to be dealing 6 damage a turn. But if we draw the power we need, then we have the lock established. Oh my god, still nothing. So yeah, this is frustrating, but we can play Hedwig now. We are at 1, 2, 3, 4, yes, 6 power. So we can play Hedwig. Hedwig lets us get a card back from our discard pile. So with our second action, we play it. And now we are at 7 again. And that's all of our actions. So now we're going to have to pass to him. And we take 6 damage from the foxes. So I forgot to mention the reason we're only playing 1 Hedwig is because Hedwig is unique, so that once we've played a Hedwig, we can't play another one. So we're only playing 1 copy for that reason. Otherwise, she's really good, being just like Reparo and also dealing damage every turn. Even though it's a little bit, it's just an upside. Oh, I think I missed that. It looks like he used... Oh yeah, okay. So he used Shooting Star to get rid of one of his lessons, which of course he doesn't need. He has already reached the amount of power he needs, and he gets 2 cards. So again, this allows him to mess with us. He plays Dobby's Disappearance to put the 1 back in our hand. And however, he needs to get rid of 1 more card. Otherwise, next turn we can play the Wand, and then Gringotts, and then Deboning. Oh, okay, this is actually, we're fine with this. His second action is Slytherin Steals. So we take 2 damage. Then we have to discard a card from play, and that card is going to be Hedwig. And Hedwig didn't really do much. She was just sitting there. I mean, she would do 1 damage per turn, but that's not really impactful. Our main goal is really to get to that 7 power. Oh, we got a question in chat. How many lessons my deck plays? It plays 14 Care of Magical Creatures lessons and 10 Transfiguration ones. So in total, 24 lessons, but it also plays 4 of the Borrowed Wand. So you could really view it as more like 28 lessons or 28 cards that provide power. And the Borrowed Wands provide 2 power. So you gotta, have that in the calculation as well somehow. So now I think we're actually going to win the game now, because now we're able to set up the lock. We play Borrowed Wand. Now we are at 7 power. Our second action is playing Gringotts. That means we have 1 more action this turn, and we're going to have as long as 1 extra action every turn as long as Gringotts is in play, and so will he. And then our second action is, third action is playing Deboning. I'm going to shake it just for good measure. There we go. And then we pass to him. So we're going to take the 6 from the Cunning Foxes, but we already have the Scribbly Force in our hand to get rid of those foxes. And we already have a Deboning. So I'm really positive about, I actually think that we will establish a lock now. And we have plenty of cards left in our deck. 30 is fine. Especially because we already have a means to get rid of his creatures. Looks like he's just using his... he just used his Broom 2 times. Because he can't play any cards, he's just filtering his hand, trying to get useful stuff. But I don't think he'll be able, be allowed to play cards ever again this game. That is just how mean we are. So now we have we have 3 actions here, and we could get rid of the foxes right away, but I'm wondering maybe our priority should be to try to get Unicorn into play this turn, and then we kind of want another power. So we could play Deboning and Scribbly Force and then Unicorn to get, and then we have another action, and then we need to get back to 7 power somehow. I think the likelihood that we will get back to 7 power is so high that we're fine with making that play. Or maybe actually I can wait 1 turn. So first we'll see what we draw from the outpost first. So we play this outpost as our first action, and this gives us 3 cards. And if we see a card that gives power now, which we do, we actually see 3 of them, then we are fine with playing the Unicorn this turn, because we know we can replace. So second action will be Deboning, of which of course we need to play every turn, so he can't play cards. And that means we have 1 action left. We use that to play the Unicorn. We have to discard a Care of Magical Creatures lesson to play it. And then as our last action, we play a Care of Magical Creatures lesson. And then we pass back to him. So in order to slow down his dying process, he chose to not use any of his actions. He just drew the card for his turn and then passed to us. So now we draw a card for the turn. And now we have 4 actions this turn. So our first concern is we need to be able to play Deboning. We already have a way to do that. We can play Reparo to get Deboning back from our discard pile. We can also play another Unicorn. So we have a lot of ways here too. Oh, actually, he's pointing out. Oh, okay, no, it didn't take damage. I forgot. I cheated. I forgot to take damage from his creature. So I'm putting back the card I drew. I'm taking 6 damage. At least I think I forgot, because I think I was at 30 cards and it should have been at fewer. So we draw something else. Okay, this is just what we need. This will allow us to outpace him in terms of damage. So now the first card we play will be Reparo. We have 4 actions, so I get Deboning back. And we play Deboning. And now he's for certain not gonna be able to get out of this. But just to demonstrate, let's play the game out. So we play our Crazed Capybara as our 3rd action, which draws us a card. And then we play Scribbly Force and we target his creatures. So now he's no longer gonna deal damage to us as well. Yeah, that's the end of our turn. We spent our 4 actions, but we got rid of his damage source. So now we're not really worried about dying. We're gonna start dealing damage of our own with the Capybara. So now it's just a matter of continuing to play the Deboning every turn. Also, I want to check, since we only have 18 cards left, so we already lost the Madam Pomfrey that was in our deck, but we could still get a Hannah Abbott from our deck with Gringotts Vault Key. Okay, I'm not sure what he revealed. Okay, so we draw our card for the turn. We shake this to show we're dealing damage. And we have lots of actions. We have 4 actions. So the other 2 Capybaras are in our discard pile, and we want to be able to get them. We can use the Vault Key to get a Hannah Abbott, that in turn we can use to get the Capybaras and Deboning. So let's get the Vault Key, or play the Vault Key. We find a card from our deck. Oh, whoops. There we go. We show him Hannah Abbott. And we play her as well. So that's 3 actions. Then we use our ability. And we don't need these transfigurations, so let's get rid of those. Get Deboning. This is actually a good time to check how many Deboning are left in the deck. There's 1. But we have Flitwick's ability still to get a Reparo. And yeah, and we have 1 Deboning in the deck, so that should be enough. And then we shake this to show that we're playing the Deboning. And we pass to him. And let's check, but there should still be enough Reparos left in the deck to keep this going. 2 more Reparos in the deck. I think we're fine. So we draw our card for the turn. Actually, I guess I'm slightly worried. Okay, so we play the Capybara. That gets us a card. Oh, we can use the color changing ink to make the draw reliable enough to pull this off without damaging ourselves when we're drawing for cards, because this just puts cards on the bottom of our deck. So that's a good idea, but we don't have to do it right away, I think. We still have some turns left. So let's start by using Flitwick's power. So we're gonna discard the 2 cards in hand that gives us power. We don't need them anymore. We get, where is it? Reparo back. And Reparo gets Deboning back. And if anyone is wondering, you can't get Madame Pomfrey back because she's a healing card. And basically every card that returns other cards to your hand or shuffles them, it says that you can't take healing cards back to prevent endless loops from happening. So now we're playing both of these. That's 3 actions. And then our 4th action will be playing the color changing ink. So we're setting up the way to draw in a way that doesn't harm us. He's asking now if he can give up. I think just for demonstrative purposes, I want to finish this. In coming games, I will allow concession. I just want to show how we keep the deboning lock going. I mean, the audience probably already sees it, but let's hammer it home. So he passes to me. We're gonna deal the 6 damage. Show it with the creature. Oh, did he already take the damage? Oh, okay. All right, so we drew Reparo, which allows us to get Deboning back. So, and that's all we need. So let's play the Reparo then. Play the Deboning. That's 2 actions. So we can still use color changing ink. So we send these to our main deck bottom. And we draw 4 cards. And we got a Deboning, so we save that for next turn. We just pass to him. So it looks like we're going to be able to keep the Deboning alive for long enough. Yeah, so he of course, all of his turns is just passing to us at this point. So yeah, we deal the 6 damage with the Capybaras. Our first action is playing Deboning to keep the threat alive. And I guess we're going to use color changing ink again to demonstrate. Oh yeah, we're sending our hand to the bottom of our main deck. And there we get the Reparo. So it looks like we're going to kill him just in time. Because now he's going to draw 1, be at 13, then take 6, be at 7, and we can Reparo for the Deboning and then deal the last damage. Yeah, so he passes to us. We draw for the turn. He takes the damage. We play the Reparo. Yeah, and now I believe I've demonstrated, so I'm gonna allow him to surrender here. So we're playing the Deboning, and basically he's not going to be able to do anything on his next turn. He's going to draw 1 card, be at 6 and then take 6 from our creatures. So I'm just gonna call this. I'm just confirming that he wants to give up, which he should want to. Type GG in chat. All right. Not sure. I guess he didn't see. Okay, GG. So yeah, this game really went our way because he just never really got rolling. He wasn't able to disrupt us in time, and he wasn't able to put on enough pressure. I was expecting this to, in most cases, that the Hooch deck will be able to put on the pressure in time. But yeah, he got a bad hand clearly, and he wasn't able to keep up the pressure. And I'm going to play the Hooch deck next. And before I play, I'm going to take a short break. So I'll be right back with that matchup. Don't go anywhere. All right, we are back, and now you will get to see the game from the side of Hooch. We have to decide who starts. I'm gonna draw my starting hand. All right. Yeah. So we decided that you will get to see Hooch on the starting side. That might give a more fair view of what the matchup is actually like. Okay, so we're starting. And Hooch is very simple. We're just trying to get to 4 power to start playing our creatures and spells and stuff. We have these two. Oh, and yeah, because of the matchup, we know it's safe to go get our 1. So let's do that. We shake Hooch to indicate we're getting our, I mean our Broom. So we get our Broom. The shooting star, put it into our hand. And we pass back. So the 2 action difference between the starting player and the player going second can really decide a game. Wait, he played a face down card? What is? I have to ask him about this. Okay, he fixed it. Yeah, so I'm gonna draw for the. So he drew a card and he placed. Yeah, he drew 1 card and. Wait. Yeah, and he played 1 card. Okay, so we draw a card for the turn. Oh, we still need 1 more lesson before we can start playing stuff. So we have to use an action. That's kind of we are not getting lucky. But okay, we use our second action and we have to pass back to him. That really sucks. But hopefully we can get an action on our mandatory draw on the next turn. He's playing a face down card again. That's weird. I'm not sure why that is happening, but he's fixing it. Yeah, so apparently he is extremely short on lessons as well. Yeah, someone said it's Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah. We play face down cards here. Yeah, so yeah, we are both. This is kind of a silly game because we're both sitting here just drawing for lessons. Okay, so our first action, we drew a lesson, so now we can play that, and finally next turn we can start doing things. And given how bad his start was, I'm guessing we're gonna win this one pretty easily. Also, to the people watching, if you have a particular matchup you would like to see, I'm going to repeat the same thing I said at the start. If you have a particular matchup you want to see, we will try to fit that in after the schedule for today is finished. Okay, so he got a transfiguration and he drew a card. So we draw our mandatory. And now we can start messing with him. So I think the most annoying thing we can do is to get rid of this transfiguration with picking on Neville. And then we play the Garden Gnome to have him start discarding cards every turn. Oh, there we go. He discarded it. And we pass back to him. I was a bit too quick to put the Garden Gnome on the board. Of course, he has to decide first if the transfiguration should be discarded. So already he used an extra action to draw a card. So he's still just struggling to find lessons. And he's still quite far away. He's only at 4 power, so he's still very far away from being able to... yeah, he chooses to discard the Crazed Capybara. I think since he can't reach Deboning power on his next turn, this turn we're just gonna try to put down as much damage on the board as we can. So we play the Shooting Star to... Actually, I guess that doesn't... Trying to figure out what deals the most damage. Playing the Black Bats right away or getting to 5 so we can play the Cunning Fox. So if we play the Cunning Fox, we deal 3 damage. It's too complicated. I'll just do what I thought I should do. I play the Shooting Star and a Cunning Fox, and then it's back to him. And this also opens up the possibility to play Lost Notes and Mandrake on our next turn. Or if he's threatening to play Deboning, we can play both Lost Notes and Slytherin Steals. And we can still also play Dobby's Disappearance. Okay, so now he is at 5 power. He can't actually... Wait, what? That was a mistake. I somehow put the top card into my discard pile. Okay. Well, I don't think he discarded for the gnome. Okay, he says he has. I just missed it. Okay, so yeah, as I was saying, he's still not threatening to play Deboning because he would need to get to 7 power, but also have a Transfiguration symbol. Now, he could get to 7 by playing a Borrowed Wand, but then he doesn't have the Transfiguration symbol, so he still would need to spend one more action. Maybe there's something I'm missing. Could he play... No, because if he plays the Unicorn, that only gives him 1 extra action and it costs 1 action to play it. Okay, so we don't need to play this lesson that we got. We just play the Slytherin Steals to set him back 1 action. Actually, this... I'm going to take that back. I'm going to be cheating. Because he's not threatening to do that, we just put down as many creatures as we can. So let's put down Mandrake. Oh, this is, again, the wrong order. No, it doesn't matter, because I'm not going to be playing the Porcupines. I play the Black Bat. And I'm going to shake the Bat to show he's going to take 2. The Porcupine draws us a card, but we already have a decent amount of cards to disrupt him. Maybe that's a mistake, though, to play the Bat. I guess it doesn't hurt to have more cards ready. Yeah, I should have played the Porcupine. Okay, so he's simply playing Care of Magical Creatures. Okay, so he discards the Unicorn. Yeah, so what he can do here... No, it doesn't matter. So now he's at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 power. So he's threatening to play Deboning, and we need to get rid of some of these lessons. So I guess we play a Porcupine now. We shake it to get a card. And our second action can be playing a Slytherin Steals. So that's going to deal 2 damage to him and also put him at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 power. Looks like he's not doing anything. Yeah, so this will put him at 5 power and means that he still is not able to play cards from his hand. He also needs to discard one of his lessons. Okay. So I'm passing to him. So at this point, it's really looking like he will never be able to play Deboning, or that he won't be able to play it in time, because he can get rid of creatures with Scribbly Force, but now there's too many creatures on the board, so things have just slipped too far. So I think it may be out of his hands at this point. So he's playing a Borrowed Wand, which puts him at 7 power, but he doesn't have a Transfiguration symbol, so he cannot play Deboning. And he's choosing to play Hedwig, and I guess he's going to use that her to get a Transfiguration lesson back. That makes sense, but we have too much stuff that can disrupt him here. Yeah, so we draw our mandatory card for the turn. We can play Lost Notes here to get rid of the wand. And I'm wondering, I think that's enough, because yeah, then it's still the case that, yeah, we just play the Lost Notes, and I think that's I think that's GG. Get rid of the Borrowed Wand. Actually, even if we let him put us in prison here, we are still fine. Because there's just no way for him to get rid of all these creatures. I mean, technically, if he gets Hannah Abbott or Madame Pomfrey, gets all those cards back, but yeah. Yeah, looks like he's conceding here. I'm just gonna write GG. There's no way out of this pickle. Yeah, so that was so now you've seen from both sides. Definitely starting makes a big difference, but also in this game we both didn't draw any lessons, so it was kind of a weird game, and he just got rolling way too slowly. So you can't read too much into who was who was starting and who wasn't, when none of us were really drawing the cards that we want. Now I want to for the next little section of the stream, I wanted to give a little bit of an update on the Run's Help deck that it was on the last stream, and also I put a deck tech video on the channel for it if you want to check out the deck in detail. I wanted to talk about some changes that were made to it and why, and also talk about a card that's potentially broken or problematic for the game. So what I found when I was playing before was not on stream, but when we were testing this, we found that the Ron Weasley deck, it was a bit weak to the McGonagall deck, because it was easy for McGonagall to disrupt Ginny, getting rid of Ginny, and even when we got Ginny rolling, it was still difficult because it was hard to set up a board state where we could play 3 cards in one turn that were part of the kill combo. He could play a card like Defendo, for example. To where is it? Yeah, there it is. To get rid of the one shop, and also Scribbly Force that you just saw in the game where I played the Deboning deck. So it seems like, and also picking on Neville was difficult to deal with early on. So I wanted to try to mitigate those issues. So the first way I did that was by adding Dean Thomas, just another copy, just because this is another character that when they play picking on Neville, he becomes fodder to discard to protect your other cards, and he will already have provided the value that you want from him by giving you the 3 cards. So that was the first include, just adding one more Dean Thomas. In the same vein, Peeves is also an effect. Let me explain Jeeves. So once per game, Jeeves makes it so both players discard their hands and draw 7 cards. And this can be really useful early. If your opponent plays a card like Escaping the Dursleys, that you've seen on other streams, but let me still pull it up. Then in order to solve it, you have to discard your hand. Well, Peeves, but the reward from Escaping the Dursleys is that you can search any card you want from your deck. So when you solve this, you can just search for Peeves and then play him, and then you get a full hand of 7 new cards, which is pretty good. And he can also just be used generally early, especially if you're starting. If you play this on your first turn, you can play, let's say, Seamus Finnegan, discard 2 of your cards, then play Peeves and get a whole new hand of cards. And your opponent will be at 7 cards, so they're not really gaining anything, but you are gaining more cards than you had in your hand. The third thing is that he can be part of your kill combo in this deck. By making your opponent get to 7 cards, you can combine that with Dobby's Help and the Venomous Tentacular Juice to make them draw the rest of the cards in their deck. And you can also use Peeves with 2 Venomous Tentacular Juice to make them draw the rest of the cards in their deck. So really there was no good reason to play a Grip Hook over Peeves, because Peeves helps just as much with the kill combo, except in one case where you are only playing Dobby's Helps. So if you, let's say you're trying to play 2 Dobby's Help and then use a Grip Hook, well, with Peeves, you would only be making them draw 27 cards in that scenario. So for all of those reasons, well, the point was that's kind of a niche case, and Peeves helps in most scenarios, so he was definitely useful enough that I think it justifies to have 1 copy of him. He, just like Dean Thomas, can also be a fodder card if they play picking on Neville. If you already used this effect, you can discard him to protect your other stuff. So those were the first 2 includes. And I also added a card called Muffling Draught, and this is the card that I was worried is potentially a problem. Now, this card requires only 3 power, and it says during your opponent's next turn, he or she can't use actions to play spell cards. Now, you've just seen the card Deboning, which makes it so your opponent can't play any cards, whereas this one only prevents them from playing spell cards. So you might say, well, this doesn't seem that broken. And it might be I find out that it isn't as bad as I think. It's barely been tested, so it's all in the, I guess, theory phase. But the thinking here was that the first thought was that I want to protect against the disruption of the McGonagall deck, because we were having problems against that. So here you could spend 2 actions to develop your board, then play the Muffling Draught to ensure that they cannot mess with your combo for the next turn by preventing them from playing spells. But then I realized that this actually goes way beyond that, because not only does this stop your opponent from disrupting you with spells, but also it stops all of the spell win conditions. And there are so many win conditions in the game that rely on spells, and a lot of interaction with your opponent that relies on playing spells. And Deboning requires 7 power to play, whereas Muffling Draught only requires 3 power to play. And in a so-called normal deck, this card might be not that good because you're spending a card and an action, and your opponent is not losing the ability to play cards. They can still do things on their turn. But when you're a character deck, you're drawing so many cards that you're likely to see one of these every turn if you play 4 copies. You also have Hannah Abbott in the deck that can get it back from your discard pile. So essentially you can get very early to a point where you're playing this, as early as having 3 power, and then you can keep playing it every turn. So against decks that rely on spells, this becomes a total lockout and seems really powerful just because of the fact that you can play it so damn early. At just 3 power, that's kind of crazy. And then, yeah, I did some test games of this against a Deboning character deck that has not yet been shown on the channel, where because it relies on spells, it would just lose incredibly early as soon as this card was played. Now, of course, in any card game, there will be cases where a card is really good against certain decks. So it might be that, first of all, I haven't tested this enough. So there may be a lot of things that I haven't thought about. First of all, you can disrupt the power of this by messing with Ginny, because if the character decks don't have their draw, then they won't be drawing into their Muffling Draughts constantly. So then you can sort of break free from this trap, prevent it from happening in the first place. Because once they play the first one, then you can't play the disruptive spells anymore. At least if they draw what they're supposed to draw. But the other thing is there are some ways that you could combat this. Of course, since this only prevents spell cards, you can play creature cards. The reason I didn't find that too convincing is that it still takes some time for the creature cards to finish you off, and creature cards usually rely on the support of spell cards to be good. Like the spell cards delay the game so that the creature cards can finish the game off. But if you're not able to play the spell cards, your opponent just has to survive for enough turns while playing Muffling Draught to be able to pull off their big combo to kill you in one shot, and you're not able to disrupt them enough because you don't have the access to spell cards. So that is a concern. But still, it's something to think about. Perhaps creatures deal with this in some manner. And the other card I thought about was a card that we're actually playing in this deck and that I didn't remove because I realized that this card might be good, is Draco Malfoy. He just allows you to use an action to discard a card from your hand, to look at your opponent's hand and discard a card from theirs. So Muffling Draught doesn't prevent your opponent from playing Draco. So you can play Draco and start discarding the cards that are part of their kill combo. And hopefully that means that even if they keep you in a Muffling Draught lock, they don't have the pieces that they need to kill you. However, that is sort of... I'm not sure that is a reliable way to deal with it, but it's an idea at least. And especially if you're playing a character deck, then you could use Draco 3 times a turn because you also have the draw of Ginny behind you. So you could really, if they are relying on a few spells like in this deck, Venomous Tentacular Juice and Dobby's Help, then you have a means to get rid of all of that stuff. The next thing I thought about is actually a very uncommon card in my decks at this point. I guess none of them play it. It's a card called Put Outer that actually looks really bad. It requires 4 power. It's an item. It says you can use 2 actions to choose one of our opponent's cards in play and return it to his or her hand. But in this particular scenario, imagine where you really need your spells and you're being locked out by Muffling Draught. You can, in a character deck, play this card. And it wouldn't be so bad in matchups where you don't need it because you have Seamus that can just discard it for more actions. You can play this card, put Outer, and you can use the 2 actions to put their Ginny back into their hand. So this is all theory, but that would be a way to break out of the lock that might make it so that Muffling Draught is not as much of a problem. Yeah, I think that was my thoughts on the Muffling Draught. So I'm hoping that it's not going to be a huge problem. Of course, when you're playing in a house format, you have full freedom over what cards you want to allow to be played. So if it turns out that the game starts revolving around too much around who plays the Muffling Draught first, that could make the game boring, but then you could ban the card. And that is something I might do on the channel, but it's way too early to make that decision. There needs to be a lot of playtesting first, and it might be that just a really good answer is to just deal with Ginny very early on so that they don't get enough cards to play the Muffling Draught. Perhaps, as I talked about with the Hooch deck, you may play cards like Vanishing Referee. Let me show that one again to have even more tools against character decks. If you're scared of stuff like this. You might also say that well, you can only play 4 Muffling Draughts. Maybe you don't draw them. With the draw you have, I think it's incredibly likely you can actually build a deck to be able to recycle these very efficiently. That's not really what this deck is doing, but if you wanted to. But there's another reason the argument doesn't hold up, and that's there is a card that does the exact same thing, but it requires 1 more power and does 2 damage to your opponent as well, called Jawbind Potion. So if you really needed more copies, you could actually just put some of these in your deck. Yeah, so the yes, once the lock is rolling, it's not hard to design a deck that keeps it rolling. Of course, you need to keep in mind when designing your deck that if you put too many cards like this in your hand that don't help you establish the board that you need to be able to start playing Muffling Draught, then then those cards will be useless because you won't be able to play them. So too many copies can also be bad. So there's some kind of balance there. There is some deck building decisions about if this card becomes a big thing in my meta, then becomes a question what will you include in your deck to deal with it. Yeah, so I just thought that was an interesting thing. And the first thing I wanted to show on this stream today is if this card actually works as intended versus the McGonagall deck. So yeah, so let's jump into a game where I'm playing the Run's Help deck with Muffling Draught and see if it's enough to make it a favorable matchup against McGonagall. I'm just gonna write my partner. And yeah, I also wanted to just comment on, I don't know, how funny it feels to have played the game for such a long time, but you're finding tools like these only just now. I mean, I have not been playing the game intensely for a long time until I started the channel, and I had played the Muffling Draught in another deck, but not realizing the full impact of it. Or potential impact of it until now. And so I just love this about card games, that you can play them for such a long time in a closed format, and there are still you're still finding new things in the game after such a long time. Okay, so we're rolling this time to decide who starts, and he's gonna be starting. But I will note that we got an incredibly good hand where we have Ginny Weasley for the draw, And we have Marcus Flint to be able to get rid of 3 cards in his hand. And this can also provide a card in play that serves as protection from picking on Neville. We also drew the Fat Lady, which gives us access to Ginny and Seamus. Okay, so he's playing the 2 lessons. Okay, we are just ridiculously lucky this game. We also drew a Seamus, which means we can actually play Ginny, Marcus Flint, and Seamus this turn. I think we're fine with that. Yeah. So it makes us. Yeah, we're not so vulnerable to picking on Neville then, because we get rid of the Marcus Flint and the Seamus, I believe. So we play Ginny. Actually, no. We play the Marcus Flint. Because we want to reveal as little information as possible. Now, we already showed him the Ginny, but if he's an honest man, he will play as if he didn't see it. Okay. Getting rid of Capybara, Prickly Porcupine, Endless Notes. Okay, stuff that he, I guess, didn't really need. We play Seamus, and then we can use Seamus to get that extra action. So for those who didn't see the videos about this deck, Seamus lets you discard 2 cards once per turn to get an extra action. And then we get Ginny on the board. So this is this is actually the perfect start for this deck, but because he's going first, he might be able to still deal with it. Okay, he's just playing a Dobby's Disappearance to delay our Ginny for a turn. That makes sense. And now he has 1 more action. He just plays another Care of Magical Creatures. So he's out of cards in his hand, so it might be he just doesn't have the stuff he needs to contest now. So we play Ginny. I think we play the Fat Lady just to get 1 more draw, and I think we use Seamus just to be able to play the last card in our hand. But this it was just an amazing start. Like we may, you know, it's looking like we're gonna win, and I think as long as you get rolling and you get to a point where you have enough power to start playing the Muffling Draughts, then we are in a really good position. But I mean, it's still not over. If he draws the right cards here, he could still pull it out. Okay, so he drew a card and he played another Care of Magical Creatures. So we're gonna draw with Ginny, which means it's gonna be 5 cards in total. Okay. So not sure here. We definitely, I mean, don't want to use Peeves, of course, because then we're going to make him draw 7 cards, but we can put Peeves on the board for later. What else? We can also discard 2 cards. So if we don't really want the Peeves, which I'm not sure we do, we can get rid of him. So I think yeah, we're going to use Seamus, and we get rid of the Fat Lady and Peeves. Because I don't think Peeves is necessary here. Then we can play... Actually, maybe we keep the Peeves just for the extra draw. Ginny will give us an extra card per turn then. We get rid of a Charms instead. Because in order to start playing the Muffling Draughts, we need to be at 3. So we're still setting up a turn here where we can be at... we can be at the amount of power we need to start playing Muffling Draught. All right, yeah. So I mean, I guess this game we would have won without the changes to the deck, but Muffling Draught is really going to help us seal the deal. The problem was before, even when we had a good start, we could be continuously delayed from pulling off the kill combo, but with Muffling Draught, we can just stop that from happening. So now he's just playing a lesson and the Capybara, and he's going to pass to us because he spent all his actions. So this is really good. Now we have 7 characters. So we're going to draw 6 from Ginny and 1 as our mandatory draw. Okay, now it looks like we're finally able to set up the Muffling Draught, and we already have Hannah Abbott on the board. So I think this game is going to draw towards a close. Yeah, I think it's a good idea already to start playing it. So we're at 3 power with Snape. We use Seamus to discard Pomfrey and Fat Lady because we already have a Pomfrey. And then we play the Muffling Draught and the Charms. And it's back to him. So we're gonna take 3 damage from the Capybara. Yeah, we just need to draw into our kill combo and stop the disruption. All right, so we keep testing the theory here. So this is going to be 8 cards with the Ginny. Okay, so there it is, another Muffling Draught, and we also have a 1-shop, and we have one of the Venomous Tentacular Juices. So let's see, if we play Charms and 1-shop, then we just need to draw one more combo piece, and we should be able to kill him next turn. So we play Charms, 1-shop. Actually, we don't need to draw the other combo piece. We have Hannah Abbott to get it back. So the game is already over. So for those who don't remember, Hannah Abbott allows us to trade 2 cards in our hand for 2 cards in our discard pile. So we can just get back the Dobby's Help from there. And the reason it's a kill is because we can use... We can use our first action to play a lesson card or another card that gives us power. 1-shop doubles the power that all our charms give. We have 1 from Snape, so that's 9. If we play another one, we're at 10. And if we discard with Seamus, we have 2 more actions. So then we can play Dobby's Help. We can use Peeves, make him draw 7. Play Dobby's Help, make him draw 10 more. So then he'll be at 17 cards, and then we'll make him draw at 31 with Venomous Tentacular Juice as our last action. Wait, why is he playing more? I think I have to remind him. Oh, no. Okay. So what he's trying to do, although it doesn't make sense because we have Peeves, but what he's trying to do is to stay at a low amount of cards in his hand, so it's harder for us to kill him. But with Peeps, it doesn't matter because we can always get him to 7. Okay, so we're going to draw 8 more cards. And yeah, now we're able to do the kill. So we're going to shake Seamus. We discard Seamus and this guy Filch. And now we have 3 actions. So the first action we play... Oh, actually, I forgot. Peeves discards our own hand. So I actually gotta be careful here. I could just wait another turn, play the Muffling Draught, and just wait one more turn to be able to set up the kill combo. because we do have 2 Dobby's Help in our discard pile that we can get. So that is actually guaranteed kill. I'm just trying to figure out if we can kill him this turn. But there's really no need to... Yeah, there's no need to risk it. So we play McGonagall to get the 10th power. I don't know. We play a palm free for good measure. And then we play the Muffling Draught. It's funny because we played all these Muffling Draughts, but it looks like he mostly just drew Lessons. Now I think I remember why maybe Peeves wasn't such a good idea. Oh, wait. I totally messed this up. So, yes, Peeves... we did have a kill, because Peeves does discard our hand, but because we have Hannah Abbott, we know that we can get those cards that we need back from our discard pile. So that was just a mess up by me. So Peeves does make some sense. So we did have a kill last turn, but it doesn't matter. We still win the game. A win is a win is a win, right? Yeah. So now we don't really need to draw any extra cards, I believe. But let's do it anyway. So we draw 10 cards. And we start by using Seamus. We discard this. We discard that. Oh, whoops. This site doesn't always behave as you want it to. Is a kind way to put it. So then I use Hannah, discard 2 Ginnies, and we're gonna get back a Tentacular Juice and Dobby's and a Dobby's Help any day now. Okay, there we go. And our first action, we play... Damn, it's lagging so bad. Okay. So we play the Dobby's Help. We play the Tentacular Juice to make him draw twice that. And then we play the last Tentacular Juice, and that's game. I would like to show one where he starts as well, because we want to test this theory a little bit more. So I want to kind of this to show like yeah, he drew his entire deck. Very nice. Yeah, I want people, you know, watching the stream to be able to kind of learn along with me. Realize, I mean, I don't pretend that I've solved everything. I will keep improving decks and presenting improvements on decks if I find them. Okay, so we're playing another game, and I'm still going to be playing the Ron deck, but he's going to start this time, so he should have a bit of a better chance. And this will be the last card of the the last game of the stream. Then we're running out of time. My friendly helper will have to go. But we did present everything that was planned. Okay, so oh wait, I forgot to pass to him. Yeah, so if he draws if he has picking on Neville or Dobby's disappearance here, he can disrupt us. But we did draw Ginny in our starting hand, which is really good. And we also have the Fat Lady. So if he discards the Ginny, then we can use the Fat Lady to get a Ginny back. So that's still a good start. And if he can't disrupt Ginny here, then we already have nice draw going. But he does have picking on Neville. If you're wondering why, oh well, I guess you wouldn't wonder that, but like I can't discard my starting character. You wouldn't want to anyway, because you really need Ron to get the extra action. Okay, so you got rid of our Ginny. We're simply gonna get another one for our first action and play play another one for our second action. So we need to find a Ginny. There we go. And then we play the Ginny. We pass back to him. Yeah, so here we are just hoping that he's not drawing enough stuff to disrupt Ginny. We are challenging him to find the next thing that can get rid of her. Looks like he doesn't have what he wants. So he spent the first action to draw, second to play a care of magical creatures. So he's now at 5 power. So he's still at least one turn away from being able to play Scribble. Oh, sorry. I should draw all of the cards at the same time, otherwise I'm cheating. I'll just write sorry. Okay, so if we play a Charms this turn, we could be one turn away from starting to play the Muffling Draught, which is the stage we want to get to. So we can play Seamus as our first action. We use Seamus. So we really only need one shot, because we're planning to have Muffling Draught rolling once we play it. So let's just assume that we'll be able to play that. I'm gonna value Grip Hook a little less than the other cards in the hand. We're still far away from getting to the kill combo, so we're just trying to, get to the amount of power we want. So my last action is gonna just be playing Madame Pomfrey, and that is just so we get more draw from Ginny. Of course, we can use her to heal ourselves next turn as well. At any time later we can use her. Yeah, so he's just playing 2 lessons, so it looks like he's trying to get to Scribbly Force power, but if we're lucky now, we can draw a potion source, and then we can start protecting ourselves. Ooh, but we did not. So I think someone in chat pointed out that there's not a lot of potion sources in the deck. That's true. We do have Chocolate Frogs, though, to search out Snape, 3 copies. I realized I didn't actually talk about what we cut for those cards. We cut the Entrancing Enchantments, 2 Gringotts Vault Key, 1 Chocolate Frogs, and 2 Hover Charms. Logic being that the Hover Charms don't really matter anyway if we're disrupting our opponent with Muffling Draught, which is half true, I think. And we just it seemed like we had too many tutors in the deck anyway, so it was fine to get rid of some of those. Okay, so we'll have to use Seamus. What do we get rid of then? I think we don't need all these Dobby's helps, so we can get rid of 2 of those. And I want to play the characters too. Oh, actually, maybe I should have played the Seamus, but I'm gonna play these. Sorry, I mean discarded the Seamus, because we can't play it. But this still it opens the door to, if he plays Picking on Neville on the Seamus or something, we can let it die and then play the other one. So I think it's fine. So someone asked, Peeps only gets 1 player to 7 cards in hand. No, it's so first you discard your hand and you draw 7 cards, then your opponent does the same. So you don't choose a player. You do it to both players. And unfortunately, yeah, now he's starting to disrupt us. Okay, actually this was a better example. So this will mean that Seamus is discarded. And then we can play the Seamus we have in hand. So he targets Ginny and Seamus with Scribbly Force. We have to choose one of them to get rid of. So we keep the Ginny in our hand. So this is uncomfortable. Because now we're just hoping that he doesn't have more stuff that gets rid of Ginny. But, oh, this seems wrong. He puts the fat lady back into our hand, but I think his main concern should be making sure that we don't get to play Ginny. I guess he thought that the fat lady can get Seamus out, but that okay, wow, he's really going for it. I think he should be saving these and just target Ginny. Okay, so he's targeting McGonagall and Pomfrey, and we have to decide one to discard, one to keep. I feel like here McGonagall is better. I feel like we don't care as much about the healing right now. We still have one Pomfrey left in the deck. Okay, so we get rid of the Pomfrey. We put the McGonagall in our hand. Yeah, and in my opinion, he should just keep these spells, because those 2 spells that he just played, it's like it buys him 2 more turns of being able to get rid of Ginny. And we showed last turn that we are not able to play Muffling Draught, so it's unlikely that we will be able to play it the turn after that again. Just because we draw 1 more card doesn't probably mean that we suddenly are able to play the Muffling Draught. We probably need to get the Ginny draw to draw enough cards to get to a place where we can play it. So first action, play Ginny. Yeah, someone in chat said that they prefer to target lessons and allow Ginny to live. Oh, that was the guy that was helping by playing against me last time. Hey there. And he said he targeted lessons. So you target Ginny early when they need their cards. When they already drew enough cards to pull off their combo, then you're just trying to get them as far away from their combo as possible, and that's when you start targeting lessons. But before then, Ginny should be your main priority, because she's the source of all the plays that the deck can make. So we're going to use Seamus again, because yeah, we're trying to get to enough actions fast. I think we want the Dobby's help. We might want it later. I still kind of want to keep the fat lady in case one of these get discarded. So what do we get rid of? I guess McGonagall is not crucial. So we can play the fat lady as our third action, and that sets up a way to replace Ginny if she's discarded on the next turn. That makes the most sense. Yeah, so the question now is, does he still have ways to disrupt Ginny? And he played a lesson, so he's at 8 power, and yes, he does have Defendo to discard this Ginny. So a problem that he has is that he doesn't have a creature on the board. So while he is buying a lot of time by disrupting Ginny, he is not dealing damage in the meantime. So we still have a lot of things left in our deck. Sorry, we still have a lot of cards left in our deck. Okay, so we use the fat lady to get our Ginny. And I guess our logic is he can't kill all of these Ginnies, can he? I guess we only have one more Ginny left in the deck. But yeah, and I don't want to use Seamus this turn because I would actually have to discard cards that I find valuable. But if he's not able to discard Ginny again, we may be in Muffling Draw territory, which is great, because we could play Chocolate Frogs to get Snape, and then play Snape, use Seamus to get one more action, and then play Muffling Draw. But we are not so lucky. He plays the Prickly Porcupine, gets a card, targets Seamus and Ginny. So again, we have to choose one to keep. We're going to keep Ginny because we only have one Ginny left in our deck, whereas Seamus, I believe we have 2 more. So we'd rather put the Ginny back in our hand. But still, we're planning on weathering the storm. So we're going to draw our card for the turn. So a thing we could do is to use the Fat Lady to get Seamus, play Seamus and use his effect. Yeah, we could discard the charms and maybe... I guess we want to keep the 1-shot because 2 are already gone and it's going to be hard to draw another one. But maybe we can get rid of the Tentacular Juice because we're really not in the territory where we can play it yet. And there's still 2 more left in the deck. So yeah, let's do that. So we're going to shake the Fat Lady to show we're using her. That's our first action. We find Seamus from our deck somewhere. There we go. We're going to play Seamus. We're going to use his effect. So we discard the charms and the Tentacular Juice as soon as the side allows me to. And yeah, so our third action is playing Ginny. So again, we're posing the question, can you get rid of Ginny? If he can, we will get another Ginny from our deck with Fat Lady. But wait, so he just drew 2 cards? Oh, he passed by accident, so I'm gonna pass to show it's his turn. So we're supposed to draw these to our discard pile. Oh, so he's playing Invisible Link to get rid of these 2 lessons. So now we will get yeah, we will get to draw with Ginny, but we lost the 2 lessons, so we're still not able to set up the Muffling Draw. So he's really able to play a lot of these spells before we reach the amount of power that we need. And this is problematic because now we don't even have a Charms lesson to be able to play our Chocolate Frogs and get Snape. But we can play Dean Thomas as our first action and then use his ability to draw 3 cards. So maybe we find what we need here. Not really, but Hannah is actually good. She can get she could get a lesson back for us. So we definitely want to use Seamus, I assume. We could just get 2 lessons back with Hannah. That might be the best actually, because if we look at our discard pile, none of those cards are Muffling Draw, so there's a lot of them left, and maybe we don't have to use Hannah to get Muffling Draw back. So we can, yeah, we can use Seamus, get rid of the Fat Lady and another Fat Lady. I doubt she will be targeted. And we play Hannah Abbott. And then with Hannah Abbott, we can get rid of, I guess, Draco, and I'm gonna choose Seamus, I guess. Still gonna consider Seamus less important. There's still one of him left in the deck, whereas there are no Ginnies. So we get 2 lessons back. Whoop. I'm going to play one of those lessons. And I think my last action, or it could be to get Snape with chocolate frogs, but I guess maybe I should do that before he destroys the lesson, instead of playing the lesson and allowing him to play invisible ink. We'll try to play around. No, actually, we don't have enough actions to do that. Okay, so we just play the lesson and we pass back to him. So this does leave us vulnerable to another invisible ink, and we're gonna take damage from his prickly porcupine. So as you can see, there's still a struggle to be able to get to the amount of power to play Muffling Draught. Oh shit, yeah, he pointed out that I was cheating. Yeah, this is what happens when you talk and play at the same time. I played Dean, Thomas, Hannah, and 2 charms. That's 4 actions, and I only had 1 extra action. So correctly pointed out that I played too many cards, and I took 1 charms lesson back. So he's playing Lost Notes to get rid of 1 charms lesson. So it's back to us. So we draw with Ginny. I guess the other action must have been to draw. We're drawing 7 cards, yep, by using Ginny. Okay, so we have our potion source, but we can't get to 3 power this turn to start playing the Muffling Draught. I'm thinking here. Yeah. So we just need to play our lessons. So play 1, 2. We use Seamus. Can keep 1 of the chocolate frogs. The other one, actually, yeah, we get rid of 1 shot. We only need 1, and we put it back to him. Someone in my opponent from last stream wrote that maybe the McGonagall deck should play some card draw, and I would say maybe. The only problem with card draw cards is when you're trying to get to a point where you can play cards as fast as possible, and the card draw cards play cards that have an impact on the board as fast as possible. And the card draw cards, they don't have an impact until oh no, he's playing Invisible Ink. So we have to get rid of these. Yeah, they don't have an impact immediately on the game. You're just putting more cards in your hand, so you're not setting your opponent back any actions with them, which I guess is the worry. Okay, so this is problematic. We still need to draw for more cards. So that's what we'll be doing. But he keeps destroying our lessons, so I'm wondering how long we can keep this up. Did we lose our Snapes? There's 1 Snape. Okay, so there's still a Snape left in the deck. And there's still a Madam Pomfrey as well. Okay. We kind of... Oh, no. We drew the Madam Pomfrey. So we do have some healing. I think it could be a good idea to use her to put some lessons back, maybe. But actually, we need her to get some combo cards back as well. Okay, but we can get Snape instead. So we play the chocolate frogs to get Snape. And I think then we want to use Snape. So we get back the cards that we need to finish the game. So I think we need one more tentacular juice, at least. And then one... Whoops. As many lessons as possible. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. And I'm gonna mark that I used Snape by adding a counter. So we're gonna send these to main deck top and then shuffle. And we're gonna use Seamus to get one more action. So I think at this point, Marcus Flint is probably useless because most of his cards in his hand are lessons, I'm gonna assume. And what else can we get rid of? I guess Ginny, because I don't think he's going to be targeting Ginny right now. So we use our last action to put a Charms lesson into play. We pass back to him. And now maybe we're getting to the point where we can actually do this. Oh, we still need to take damage from his porcupine. He's playing Lost Notes, gets rid of the Charms lesson. As long as Snape stays on the board, I guess, so his first action must have been to draw cards. I think we can still afford to draw with Ginny. So we're gonna draw 8 cards. Because we have healing and we have a way to get his put his creatures back into his hand. Okay, so now we need to play the Muffling Draught. So we play Charms. Charms. We use Seamus. We discard some characters we don't need. Fat Lady and Filch. And we play the Muffling Draught. So I guess now our lessons will stay alive. We only have 3 cards left, but we have Madame Pomfrey to heal us 12. We have Quirrell to delay his creatures from dealing damage for 1 turn. So I think we have what we need. Looks like he just drew cards. So now we just draw normally. So this turn, we need to play Pomfrey to not die to the Porcupine or Quirrell, but it's more efficient to use the Pomfrey. So we're definitely going to play the Pomfrey. And we're going to use Seamus to get an action. Let's think about this. We can get rid of chocolate frogs. There is nothing we need to be searching for. We have enough Charms lessons to close the game out, so we don't need more of those. So we discard one of those. Okay, so that's one action. One action has to be Muffling Draught. And then our last action will be a Charms lesson. And then we use Madame Pomfrey. So we get venomous tentacular juices. I think as many as possible, because those make it easier for us to win the game. And grip hook as well. We get the Dobby's helps back as well. We probably don't need them, but just in case he somehow gets rid of the cards in his hand. And then we can get whatever for the rest, I guess. Charms. I don't know why I'm not able to move this card, but it's okay. So it's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, this one was somehow out of range. This is very inconvenient to do this on this side. Okay, but now we did everything. So we pass back to him, we take the 2 damage. So I think now we should have this game, because he can play creatures to threaten to deal more damage. But we won't we won't die in one more turn, and we can establish. Oh, actually, I'm not sure. No, it should be fine. We can take damage for 1 turn. We can delay with Quirrell 1 more turn. It's not totally clear. There is some math there. If he plays more stuff. So he uses an extra action to draw a card, and he plays a porcupine. And he's gonna pass. Okay, so we draw. Okay, so we can't win this turn, but I think we can win next turn. If we play a Charms and a one-shot, we are at 9 power, and then we just need to play the Muffling Draught. So, and then since we drew the Tentacular Juice, I was pretty lucky. We can, since he has so many cards, he's gonna draw the rest of the cards in his deck. And then we use Seamus to get an extra action. We don't need more lessons, so we can start discarding those. Oops. And our last action is the Muffling Draught. So now we take 4 damage. So in a very slow way, I think we're demonstrating the power of Muffling Draught. It took such a long time to get there, but we're finally at a stage where he can't mess with us. And now he has looks like, what is it, 10 cards in his hand, which means the first Venomous Tentacular Juice makes him draw 20, and the second one then makes him draw 40, which is game. So now we draw for the turn. Yeah, we don't even need to use Seamus this turn. Oh, I need to put this over here. And that's gonna be GG. So these games are so drawn out, but I think it's still a cool fight to see. And I think I did showcase here that Muffling Draught is a really good include for the deck. Not necessarily broken. Well, it really might be, but I will keep testing it in the streams to come and keep showing other ideas as well. So that was the last game of this stream. I would like to say, first of all, thank you for watching. This will probably be the format for coming streams. Next week I'm gonna do another stream, present 2 new decks, and possibly do a similar thing to what I did this time, where I talk about some improvements that I made on a deck and why. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.